Hi, this is Mike from Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and on today's video we're going to take a look at a power supply from the people over at AWDIT. Now this is, as far as I can tell, their own brand power supply, which comes with the X equals Singularity, or whether it's just X or Singularity. Honestly, no idea, not a clue. But this has some features which are somewhat rare on the PSU market. One of which is it is a white power supply, which in itself is a relatively unusual thing. But also, all of the cabling and all of the plugs are also white as well. It also is a 700 watt rated unit, is fully modular, so complete fully modular setup there, and it's bronze rated with a 2-year warranty, and it only costs £50, including shipping. So, obviously, there are some pros and some cons there. This is a relatively budget power supply in terms of what is available on the market right now. And for those of you that are wondering, obviously they don't make their own power supplies, so who makes it? Well, this is actually based on one of the Channel Well technologies, or CWT designs, which also is shared by the CIT FX Pro. So effectively this is a kind of rebadged or rebranded CIT FX Pro 700 watt, although the CIT range don't have a fully modular version, and as far as I'm aware, their warranty is a little bit less as well, at only 1 year. So you're potentially getting a somewhat reasonable deal here. The main capacitor on this unit is made by a company called TK, which stands for Toshkin Kogyo, and that is a 105C rated 420 volt single cap. Now obviously it isn't the greatest, would have been nice to have seen something on there from maybe Nishikon or someone along those types of lines. But it does seem to be a reasonable cap considering, again, the price point that this power supply is actually retailed at. So with all that out of the way, let's take a look at the packaging, we'll take a look at the unit, and we'll also take a look at the cabling so you can work out whether or not this might be suitable for your next very budget build, especially if it's going to be a white one. So packaging wise, nothing too elaborate, but it is their own branding for the AWT company. So you've got the X equals, or X. Really not sure what that's supposed to be. Let me know in the comment section if you've got any idea. And it is part of their Singularity branding. This is a 700 watt model. They do actually do other wattages as well. There's 850 and possibly a couple of others as well, with the same white design and also the modular cabling. As you can see, fully modular power supply unit, and it comes with a 2-year warranty and is 80 plus bronze rated. And usually, actually, on the inside of the box, we've now got the product specifications. So if you wish to, feel free to pause the video right now and you can have a quick read through there. Essentially, this is slightly unusual because it isn't multi-voltage. So this only works in EU and UK. So 200 volts up to 240 volt supplies. Doesn't support USA ratings at all, which I guess is possibly how they've managed to get the 80 plus rating. So for the higher voltage areas, they're a little bit more efficient. So the efficiency, the conversion, etc. just works out a little bit better. So it's a little bit easier to get a 80 plus rating in the EU and other countries that use kind of 200 volts or higher. Also, it's got the dimensions on there. So it's actually quite compact at 140mm by 150mm by 86mm. So that's pretty good, and also tells you about the included connectors. Also included, you get a user manual or user pamphlet telling you about the cables and the unit itself. And there is actually a nice touch, so you've got some white cable ties there, or clear cable ties I guess you'd call those. And also there are some silver screws as well to tie in with the whole thing. All of it is white or silver, so yeah, it's pretty nice to see that. Next we'll take a look at the power supply itself. So on the side you've got the ratings on there. Now actually it does say it's a 700 watt power supply. It kind of is, but it isn't. So combined wattage, it will get to 700 watts. The actual 12 volt rail, which is the one that most of us are more keen on, it's only 56 amps, which I think translates to about 670, 680 watts. So it's a little bit short of that 700 watt rating, but that isn't entirely uncommon for more budget power supplies. On the back, you've got a nice ventilation grille there, and also you've got the warning again that this is only 200 to 240 volts AC, and you've got white plugs and a white switch. On the other side, you've got some more of the X branding on there, and on the back, some of the most important stuff is the fact that we have got our modular cable connections. So as you can see, we've got 4 outlets there for CPU or PCI Express. You've also got 4 outlets for the IDE/SATA, so your accessory connections, and the top one there, the 2 plugs there, are for your motherboard 20/24 pin power. all of it has been really nicely laid out and also labelled, so even if you're a beginner, this shouldn't cause you any problems at all. Underneath, or on top, depending which way you're looking at it, so we've got the 120mm fan in there. It's actually a pretty nice fan, very quiet as well. I've actually tested this a little bit earlier, and even under some kind of reasonably heavy loads, the fan doesn't seem to get very loud at all. So very pleased to see that they've used apparently a high quality or reasonable quality fan in there. So again, no nasty noises. That is something which we quite often see from power supplies, which kind of promise a lot, but then fail to deliver because they're either noisy or clicky or whatever. But yeah, this seems to be very good. It does appear to be temperature controlled as well, which is actually pretty handy. So at lower wattages or lower output, it's actually going to be pretty quiet, and it will ramp up a little bit as temperatures get on. It's pretty mild here in the UK at the moment, so I've not managed to really get it up to full temperature, but certainly from what I can tell at the moment, it seems pretty good. Next, we'll take a look at cabling and length. So the first one is going to be our 20/24 pin main power connector. So this is the one that goes into your motherboard. This one comes in at 600mm in length, and again is all white everywhere. The plugs, the cables, the connections, everything. And also I should mention as well, all of the cabling on this is all 18 gauge. So 18 AWG or AGW, however they pronounce it. So yeah, that's pretty nice, reasonably flexible. Would have been nice to have seen 16 gauge on there possibly, but yeah, I think for a more budget power supply, this is absolutely fine. Again, 600mm in length. Next, we've got our EPS or CPU power connectors. Again, all of this is actually labeled up nicely as well. So it says CPU on the side, so you can't really go too far wrong. Both of these are split as well, so it's a 4+4 design. So if you want to use a 4 on its own, you can do. If you want to use 8, you can do. And again, nice white cabling and white connectors both ends. These come in a little bit longer at 650mm. Next is going to be one of the weaknesses of this power supply, and the fact that it has only got one, well, technically it's one cable for your graphics card. So this is your 8-pin or 6-pin PCI Express. It has got a kind of a daisy chain, so you can put 2 in. Obviously, some people are going to be okay with that, some people aren't. So yeah, that is going to be probably the deciding factor. Most graphics cards up to the kind of Intel B580, that kind of thing, or some of the older Nvidia cards, going to be absolutely fine with a single cable. But again, it depends what it is you're using it on. It's going to be down to the individual. If you get the 850W version, this actually comes with 2 of these cables, so that might be a little bit better for some people, but it is going to cost you a little bit more money. This one again, 450mm from one end to the other, and then you've got another 150 from one cable to the next. Now we're going to get on to the slightly scary area. So this is the SATA plugs. So the SATA plug, same sort of deal, so 500mm from the power supply to the first cable. Then you've got 150 to each subsequent cable, and this particular cable has got 4 SATA plugs on there. This one is absolutely fine, and I've actually used my power supply testers. I've got 2 of them. One of them is a bit more accurate than the other, and with using this power supply passed with flying colours, no problems at all on the 12V, 3.3 and 5V rails. And in fact, the 5V and the 3.3 were a little bit on the high side, so maybe the regulation isn't as good as it could be, but I would rather see it a little bit higher than being a little bit lower. So this came in at 3.45 volts, which is a little bit high. And on the 5 volts, we had like 5.1, 5.2. It's flickering between them. But this cable, absolutely fine. But where it gets a little bit murky, and I'm not too sure why or how this happens, there's another 2 cables. So these actually have a single SATA plug, and also we have a 4-pin Molex or accessory type connector. A Van Berg connector, I think it is. Whatever. Anyway. So you get 2 of those on there. Now, but either of these cables plugged into the power supply, I was getting some very weird results, and it did fail the tests. So on the Thermaltake Dr. Power, this actually failed the test, and we got the red flashing and also the siren saying that it's a bad power supply. I got that with this cable, and I got it with this one, but when I plugged in this one, it passed all the tests flying colours. So I would say this as a kind of a word of warning. Potentially, these I've either got an issue with them in terms of how they've been wired, or they're just faulty, whatever it is. I will be getting in contact with AWD IT. Unfortunately, it's the weekend at the moment. This is Saturday, the 20-something of February. So if I hear anything or I get a result back, then I will let you know. Potentially, there may be a fault with how these cables are actually wired. So if potentially you're watching this video and you're thinking, that's great, and you're wanting to use these, I would strongly suggest against it, at least at the time being, until I can find out more. It looks like they've been wired into the actual power supply with just the 4 plugs there, whereas on the other SATA cable, it seems to have the 5th plug connected. So I'm not too sure how they've done it. Maybe they've kind of crossed over the 12 volt and the 5 volt to make the 3.3 or whatever it is. There's some weird thing you can do by crossing wires to reduce the voltage, but yeah, not overly happy with those. But there are 2 of them included, and you have got 2 modecs, 2 SATA, so potentially if you're kind of tight on space, those might be useful. But like I said, I would strongly suggest at the moment against using those, because potentially there may be a fault with them or just bad wiring. So if you do need to use SATA, then use these. Unfortunately, that is the only way of powering accessories via these SATA plugs at the moment, so I would advise against using the modecs. And also, weirdly, but kind of nice as well, there isn't a floppy style connector, which I know is somewhat of a relic of the past these days, and very few people need them. But some instances, such as if you're using any of the Thermaltake RGB setup, where it's got its own little control hub, those do actually need it. And also some custom water cooling stuff. Now, clearly, you're probably not going to be using custom water cooling stuff with this type of power supply, and likely you're not going to be having a particularly high-end system. But I think it would be nice to at least have an adapter included in the box to convert maybe a Molex to a floppy or whatever. Anyway, that is kind of it for going over this power supply. So yeah, effectively it is a CIT FX Pro 700 watt, but modified to be white and also fully modular. And also, again, 2-year warranty, which is a little bit better, especially here in the UK. CIT power supplies generally only come with 1 year, so nice to see they've got some faith in the product, giving you the extra year's warranty. Like I said, I will check out with AWD IT about these cables and see if that is a known fault or whether I've just found something which they've not come across before. And I will, of course, let you know in the comment section, or possibly update it in a live stream or a pinned comment or something when I find out any more. But overall, in terms of taking these out of the equation, and just looking at this as a kind of a basic budget power supply with kind of okay-ish components inside, and also the flexibility of having a fully modular and also being completely white. For some people, for cheaper builds, I think this is going to be great. And I'm pretty sure that actually AWD IT, some of their own PCs, if you build one or buy one, then this is kind of what is going to come inside possibly as well. But anyway, I think that's covered enough in this video review and unboxing. If you've got any comments, which I'm sure you will have, please feel free to put them in the comments section below. But for now, I've been Mike. This is Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and hopefully we'll catch you in the very next video. Thanks for watching.